Are any of these hanging off your wall? Our top 5 greatest movie posters of all time draft is next. Welcome back, everybody, to Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. I am your host, Rob. And with me today, I have Frank, Adam, and Mark. Adam, glad to see that you're doing well again and coming back. And I'm not that I'm not happy to see the other guys, but you guys are here just like how can I say? It's just like belly button lint. You know, you're always here.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. No. I'm here to expose the fallacy of things that happen because this is our second time doing this.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I know why. Chose too many John Carpenter posters last time.
Oh my
No,
god!
there wasn't. We only
Fuck
had
that
3.
shit. You're not going to go ahead and have that happen on my show. That's what happened.
Yeah, between you and me, we had
We
3.
chose like 4.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Crap.
Who chose 4?
Between Frank
Between
and I.
all of us, we chose about 4 John Carpenter movies.
Yeah, that's true. But let's be honest, we really weren't choosing John Carpenter. We were really choosing Drew Struzan.
I was choosing John Carpenter.
We'll deal with Carpenter on my
All right,
podcast,
anyway.
Frank. You know that. Oh, okay.
So today, man, is you know what? Before we start, has anyone seen that movie Gran Turismo?
Oh
No.
yeah,
No.
Dude,
It
that's
was
an
good.
awesome movie.
it was
Really?
good.
For a video game, apparently it's doing well, and I give
Car
it kudos.
simulator? No,
Okay, did anybody watch Twisted Metal?
I
No.
still have yet to watch it. I was anticipating it. I
I've
got
been-
Paramount because they stated that, hey, you could watch it on Paramount, but it's on Peacock, and I'm like,
It's on Peacock, yeah.
It's on Peacock,
but
yeah.
they lied on Paramount, so I haven't been able to watch it yet.
It's
It's
probably
actually really good.
yeah. From what I heard, it's really getting some really good traction on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but no, like Gran Turismo actually shocked the crap out of me because
Wow.
when I saw it, I had this look on my face where it's like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
You know, it's one of those, and especially if you watch Need for Speed, the movie based on the video game, we all know what Need for Speed. Yeah.
Aaron
But
Paul, baby.
no, man, let me tell you, man, I really, really like this movie. I mean, it had a lot of heart. The driving sequences were freaking phenomenal, and the really cool thing. So when if the guy who you didn't see it, Frank, right? No, and how about you, Mark?
I haven't. No.
Nobody saw
You haven't seen it? Okay, so there are some scenes that are really cool where he is visualizing himself as if he was in the video game. So you see the lines on the road, like
Okay.
if he's like imagining the lines where he's supposed to go, and in one instance, he imagined himself back home. So the car that he had all of a sudden breaks apart.
Yeah.
Like in this 3D thing, just breaks apart. He's at home talking to his dad, and then he comes right back to real time, and all of a sudden it assembles itself, and the car just keeps going in one shot. I was like, "Fuck!" You know, I know how that's done,
Right.
but that was a cool shot. That was a really cool
the
shot.
CGI was so clean in that movie. Like,
It was.
nothing was cheesy
Oh,
about
okay.
it.
Adam saw it.
Yeah, it was. The story held your interest. The fact that it's a true story is even crazier.
Yeah.
Right.
The casting was good, and yeah, it was just and then if you stick around to the end, you kind of learn a few extra things about the movie that they kind of snuck in that you didn't realize.
Yeah.
But it was I did not expect to like it as much as I liked it. Like,
Right.
so in a good way.
Basically, you're telling me it's far better than what we got years ago with the movie Speed Racer with Christina Ricci.
Well,
Hey,
Speed
man, what's
Racer.
wrong with
Speed Racer was
Speed Racer?
based off of how you call it, off of an anime, and they were trying to make
Yeah.
it look like the anime, which
Exactly.
they didn't do a good job on it. But I
All
don't
right,
know.
again, what's wrong with Speed Racer?
I don't know. I never really got to watch it too much,
I
but
enjoyed the hell out of Speed Racer.
Did you
okay.
really? Yeah, I wasn't a big
Dude.
fan, so
I went in with no expectations at all, and then what I got actually kept me entertained.
okay.
That'll work. I have yet to go revisit it, but I had high hopes for it, but
Right.
yeah, 3/4 into the movie, I was like, all right, I'm tired. And that was it.
No,
But
it was
I'm hoping that Gran Turismo actually does reinvigorate the idea of video game state movies
But
turned
that's why I
to
was saying like Twisted Metal is also based on the video game, right?
yeah, it is.
And you
Yeah.
don't expect that a show that has, first of all, like I think it's 10 episodes or 8,
Yes.
right.
and it's actually really solid. Like you're like sitting there like, shit, this is really freaking good. I went in like just like, oh, let's watch how they're gonna fuck this up.
Oh,
And
you have
I
and you
left.
have
I was like, I showed it to my wife. I was like, here, you need to watch this goddamn show.
well, you have high quality actors in it too. You have Nev
Yes.
Campbell.
Well, because they did it as a comedy too, so
Yeah.
you don't take it very seriously, and it doesn't take itself very seriously, from what I
No,
hear.
it's actually really funny too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is
But
good.
no, Gran Turismo, the thing with Gran Turismo, Mark, you were saying about taking, video games. The thing about Gran Turismo, I think the reason it worked, it was because it's not based off a story within
The video game
the
itself.
video game itself, which there is no story in the video game. The
Right.
video game is basically just a car simulator.
Mhm.
But it's based off of something that actually happened because of that video game.
Okay.
So that's why I think it worked. Video game movies are very hard to for them to
replicate into movies.
Yeah. I mean,
Did they ever do Spy Hunter?
They were talking about it with The Rock.
That
and
would have been
just never-
interesting because
it never
I
came
grew up playing that in the early 80s. So I would love to see that come out.
listen, I would love to see Grand Theft Auto on the screen too, but that might not be that might
Oh,
not get the
yeah.
treatment it should, because there's a lot of things in Grand Theft Auto that you should not probably show on a screen.
I would love to see Stephen Ogg in
Yes.
celluloid and portraying his character. It would be amazing.
But the one video game they said that they were going to try to do that Jake Gyllenhaal was tied to, oh man, what is it? It's
The Prince of Persia?
no. It's a
That came out.
it's a shooter's game. No, we're talking about it's a shooter game that actually is based in New York after like a pandemic.
Oh, Duck Hunt. Just joking.
Nintendo game for everybody.
Oh man, wouldn't that be awesome? No, fuck, I forgot. Oh man, I completely forgot.
Hang on.
Which is a real. I don't know if one of you guys could look it up. Man,
Is it cooperative? Is it? I want to say District, but damn it.
no, not District. It's like the first movie is based in New York, and you can actually like you go around in New York, and you have to go through some missions, but there's like all these different factions, and you're part of a secret group that got activated because of this.
Yes, I know what you're talking.
Yeah, it's actually very well made, and it's the graphics are beautiful. So from what I heard was that they were going to do a movie version of that, and that Jake Gyllenhaal was tied to it, and nothing has ever happened about it. But I wish it. I think if it would have been done right, it would have been good. So,
I
but yeah,
think all these companies are trying to do, like, I know we're going to go into the episode, but I think these video game companies are trying to do now their own cinematic universes. Because I don't know if you noticed in the beginning of Gran Turismo, they had a very Marvel opening logo where it just showed all these game characters and this very MCU cinematic opening. And I'm like, okay, they have bigger game universe plans. And I'm sure Nintendo's going to do it now with how great Mario was. So I don't know. I think now they're going to be good. That's the other argument. But I think they're definitely going to do it. I think we're going to see a lot more game cinematic universes coming along.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Like
I
they've
mean,
done it with Resident Evil, but and they continue to do so and reinvent it. I think the movie that you're looking for is was Tom Clancy's The Division.
Yes, that's the one.
Why.
That's the one. The Division.
District, but it's The Division.
The Division, yeah. So I remember playing that game, and of course, being a New Yorker, you're walking around going, holy crap, they got every street that I used to go to. So which was pretty cool. But
I went down to the Village District. I knew where 8th Street was.
Yeah,
I went down here. I could go to my leather shop. I could go to Revolver Records. I could keep going down. Hold on, there's Electric Ladyland Studios.
Yeah, no, you could go to all those places. They just don't call them that because they had to get, if not, they had to get permission from all those.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was cool. I thought it was it would be cool if they come out with something like that. But yeah, I think like you said, Adam, I think they're just trying to everybody's trying to capitalize on their IP.
Yeah.
And PlayStation now wants to do the same thing, and you know what? They're successful with this. I mean, which is great. So I don't mind that kind of storytelling or anything if you have a good story behind it. Everybody's just going to come and flock to see it. If you don't have a good story, no amount of good CG and everything like that is not going to save it. So, and I think we've seen a lot of examples of that this year.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, so we are here because, of course, our love of movie posters. And as a matter of fact, the reason I also brought up, Gran Turismo, because Gran Turismo actually has 2 different movie posters. They have your typical actors in front, right? But then they, standing there, and then they have one that does have the floating heads, but on the bottom it does have this car, one of the cars. And it reminds me of the old posters that used to be done for, like, let's say, Le Mans and stuff like that, which are really cool. So it has a cool, that poster I think was really cool. So, but yeah, movie posters, the one thing that, first of all, let's talk about this. What is a movie poster?
All right. Well, movie poster, honestly,
I was told there would be no math.
He had no homework. No, honestly, what a movie poster is something that entices us to go see the movie before the movie has ever been, let's say, trailered, giving us a trailer. We come out of the most recent movie that we have seen or in the theater itself, and we come out and we see, hold on, is this a King Kong movie, or what is King Kong? And you look over and what is this? And all you have is the poster. Very much like similar to Star Wars. What is the Star Wars?
Right.
And it intrigues you and grasps your imagination as you're looking at this poster itself, indicating coming soon to a theater near you. And without the trailer itself, it's something to encapture your imagination of what the movie would be and make you want to go see it before the trailer comes out.
Yeah, so basically the movie poster is what sells the movie.
Yeah, promotion.
Right. And we have all been there. We have all, I mean, us being movie lovers that we are, we have gone to the movies, and while we're waiting to see a movie, we see all these other movie posters of things that are coming soon. And I think in the time that we grew up, they were, because this whole podcast is not only going to be our top 5 for each one of us, but also a discussion on, hey, there were great movie posters out there, and now you see movie posters are very different compared to what they used to be before the 80s. So around the 80s is when they started using a lot of photography. But before that, they were using a lot of illustrators. And there's some great famous illustrators out there. You have people like Reynolds Brown, who actually did Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. And Reynolds Brown did a ton of horror films back in the 40s and things like that, and never got credit for it at all. But his posters are actually so, they seek them out so much because of the rarity, of course, You got Norman Rockwell, who of course is very well known in
Famous.
as a famous artist. You know, he did about 8 movies. You have, of course, what they call the godfather of movie posters, Bob Peak, who did Superman, Excalibur. He did Camelot, Apocalypse Now, which from what I heard was his favorite. And there's an interesting story about Apocalypse Now, because they said that on the poster you have, when you look at the poster, you have Marlon Brando, and then towards the right, top right, you have Martin Sheen. Right. Well, that was Robert Duvall before, but because Robert Duvall did not have a good relationship with Francis Ford Coppola, he actually told Bob Peak to take his photo out of there, or his head out of there. So they had to put Martin Sheen. Yeah, it's really interesting story behind that. His son or grandson actually explains it much better, but it's actually very interesting on that. But he's also responsible for Star Trek the motion picture, a lot of the Star Trek movies out there. You also have John Alvin. So John Alvin, of course, did Blazing Saddles, did Blade Runner, Willow, Gremlins, but he's most famous for his poster E.T., which was his biggest success. Another one, Roger Castle, who did Jaws, which is actually, you know, and of course, famously did The Empire Strikes Back also. So, but Jaws is also interesting because the original book looked exactly the same as the poster, except that it looked a little more illustrated or whatever. Well, not illustrated. It just looked like it didn't look real. And so the publisher said, "Hey, we just want to make it a little more realistic." So when because the hardcover looked more not realistic, so when they did the paperback, they did his illustration that he did,
right?
And then the movie company, you know, the studio said, "Hey, can we use the painting that you did for the book?" And so they did that, and of course that movie is famous now for that. But you know what? No one could find his original painting. For 40 years, that painting has been missing, and he's still looking for it. And of course,
and I got it right here.
And then there's another great artist called Richard Ansel, who did Raiders of the Lost Ark, Dark Crystal, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, The Sting, and of course, probably the most famous artist out there, Drew Struzan, who is very well known for doing a lot of the Star Wars posters, reissues of the Star Wars posters, did the Goonies, the amount of stuff that he has done has been insane. And his artwork is really beautiful, but unfortunately, a lot of those artists are no longer being done. I mean, so what's your thought on that? On the way posters used to be created before compared to what you see now? Anybody has any insight on that?
I'll hop in on that.
Go ahead.
When we had illustrators who were putting their heart and soul into the posters, like you saw it was like they spent a lot of time working on it. There's, you can see brush strokes and things like that, and it really stands out. Like you can put two posters together, and you just have to look at them, and you can say, "Oh yeah, this one was done by Illustrator. This one was done by Photoshop or whatever."
Right.
Even when they try to make it look like an illustrated poster nowadays, it still doesn't reach the level of what they had when we were growing up and we were seeing those things. And I feel like they've realized they don't have to try as hard. You know what I mean? It's like people aren't really that interested in the posters. First of all, if a lot of people would just be like looking at it and going, "Yeah, it's a poster. It sells a movie. That's all it really does." But for people who love posters, who like to look at them and things like that, and see what's involved with, some of the ones that we're going to be talking about later, that matters to us. You got people who poster their offices and their, man caves and things like that with different posters that stand out to them and bring back a memory of like when they first saw that poster, even before they saw the movie. And in some cases, maybe you saw the movie and you really didn't think it was that good, but you felt like the poster was selling you a movie that was different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Joe Dante would say that sometimes the movie posters were more exciting than the movie itself,
Right.
because in some cases you could get away with certain things on the movie poster that you can't get away in the movie because you didn't have the budget to do what the movie poster is actually
Yeah.
telling you that it's doing.
Yep, that is
You
true.
know?
Yeah. Count all those X-wings on the Star Wars. You never
Yeah.
saw that many in the movie.
Exactly. So, I mean, you also have to think about, I mean, the industry has changed so much. You know, back then, of course, I mean, what started it all, it was like in 1798 when the invention of lithography came out. That was done for, you know, of course, advertising different things. But then when advertisement came in, they started advertising shows, they started advertising, you know, small little movies here and there. And then that's when, like, I would say in the mid 40s, or you know, that's when in the mid-century, that's when really they started, all these studios started using posters as a thing. But a lot of people didn't really care for them. And what I mean by that is, while they look great, it was meant to, of course, advertise the movie.
Right.
But there wasn't a collector's market out there for it like there is nowadays. As a matter of fact, there've been houses out there that they've been renovated, you know, houses that, you know, are from the 1910s and 1920s. All of a sudden they're going through renovations, and what do they see? They see movie posters inside the walls because they were being used as insulation.
Right.
And these are movies that were lost in time, where they're like, there is not a single copy of this movie poster out there. You have the only copy that actually exists. So, and that's because they used to be made in cardboard as opposed to paper, the way they are now. And as a matter of fact, a lot of original great posters that we grew up with, you know, if you try to go get a new one, all of them have just so you know, all of them have creases because the movie posters was folded,
Yes.
right, and put in the same canister where the film was that was sent to the theater.
Yes.
So they say if you ever see one that's not folded or nothing like that, you should question it more. But
yeah,
that's why
I actually sent you one recently, a picture. I was at Smodcastle Cinemas, and they had I actually spoke to Ernie about it.
yeah,
It was an original Revenge of the Jedi
right.
poster.
And that's why I saw the creases on it. I was like, hey, that's an original.
Yeah.
So so there's a big aftermarket, especially later it became, you know, it became a big business out there, you know, which is really cool. And a lot of people do seek out these old movies these old movie posters. One, because they might be rare.
Mm-hmm.
But two, because, you know, there's an artistry to it. You know, they're basically artwork. One of the things, I don't know if you guys remember, is going into a video store and you just saw tons of videos on the shelves, and it just looked like a small art gallery.
It did.
You know, which was really cool. Nowadays, and I think Adam, you and I were talking about that. Nowadays, you know, marketing companies, the way they're doing thing nowadays is just, hey, you know, now the studio, or basically the director, hardly has any say on that movie, or any say on the marketing of that movie.
Wow.
Normally it's the actors, the marketing people, the publicists, managers, all these things that have to be written in a contract. And I'm sure you actually know a little more about that. I mean, because I know you've done some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you know what winds up happening is actors and their managers, they negotiate top billing, and then that's when you notice when names don't match up with the actors right underneath it, because you know they're basically saying like, no, if I'm the lead, my name has to go first, and then supporting actor in order of importance then goes from
Right.
left to right. and even from height wise, like it needs to be a certain height, and then so it's all honestly it's boiled down to like just like how they need certain screen time or their credits have to come up in a certain way, that all trickles right back down to the movie poster. So it's which I get it, because obviously, if you have a big lead actor, you want to, they're the ones that are going to probably sell the tickets and, put the butts in the seats. But, now when it comes to whoever's going to put the poster together, now they're bound by those limitations, which
Right.
was probably not really the case back in the day. Back in the day, it was just like, let's create something visually engaging and appealing. Now it is a numbers game, and now they have to kind of work around those, which, if someone's really good at what they do, they'll find a creative way to do it. But then, which I'm sure we're going to get into, there's a lot of tropes in movie posters,
Oh my
and
God, yes.
you can and usually they're generational. So you can see like posters in the 90s, they look a lot like each other, and then they evolve to the 2000s. And I think my favorite types of posters are like independent films, because they usually can do whatever they want.
Correct.
But then even those films also have a certain look and feel because they're independent films. So there's there's a link between budget and genre,
Yeah.
when it comes to those. But even with all that, you get some very amazing gem of a movie posters that become just as classic as the movie, sometimes better than the movie. So
Yeah, yeah, they're
No, absolutely.
synonymous with the movie itself.
yeah,
It's something that's ingrained in our memory, because not just about the movie, but about the poster itself and us, or the journey to the film,
yeah,
Right.
or even afterwards with like video.
yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's
the
it's all
poster is promising you something. That's basically what the poster is doing. It's supposed to promise
Right.
action, drama, comedy. So
Fantasy, yeah.
that's the whole purpose. It's
Nudity.
supposed to be like,
right.
if yeah, there we go.
Nudity. Well, this is not Q. We're not talking about Q.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that
Whatever.
also, Adam, is that, like, so a perfect example is, like, let's say a Christmas movie, which every Christmas poster will have a Christmas theme, one
Mhm.
character, especially let's be honest, Christmas movies are usually romance movies. Uh most of them. But what you see is, one character's dressed in green, the other one's dressed in blue, and of course, in the back you have either Christmas trees, you have they look so generic, and there's a lot of movies that,
Yeah.
tend to have the same kind of look. It's what I call the lazy way of doing things. But unfortunately, it's not because of the graphic artist, because it's not really the graphic artist's fault. The graphic artists, they're good graphic artists that are just doing a job that, the marketing team is telling them to do. This is what
Right.
we want. I saw in a documentary, a they were doing this like market test, and they put two posters A and posters B. Poster A looked like the generic crap that we see all the time. Poster B was actually done by an illustrator, like, so there's a famous company out there called Mondo, who actually hires illustrators to do all these aftermarket type of posters of movies that, have come out before, and they do a very amazing job at illustrating these amazing posters. And a lot of them are done, of course, in computers and stuff like that, which I'll get into that in just a moment. But the thing is that this poster B was done in a really stylistic way, while poster A was just basically a photo of an actor with some text over his face. And you saw a lot of people pick poster A because they thought poster B, because it's illustrated, it reminded them that, oh, it might be an animated movie. I'm like, where the hell do you even see that? Is that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, it's because it's a photograph, it tells me that it's an actual movie or something like that. Or, so that it was just kind of like, first of all, you're getting the wrong people to sit here and tell you what works and what doesn't. At least that's in my opinion. But at the same time, they kept discussing it, and you say, "Oh, but you know what? The one poster B is what you see probably international markets
Yeah.
get, but poster A is basically what America gets because we're too stupid to realize that, hey, this is not an animated movie, or this is, this movie, I don't have to actually have the actor in front of my face for me to go see it, while other markets are okay with that. So it's very interesting depending on the market, depending on, you know, where it's being shown, on how these posters are actually being done. And of course, nowadays, it's not just the movie poster. It is streaming services where there's an icon that's about, 3 inches by 4 inches on your TV. Or what do most people do, which I still get so angry at, is just that people watch movies on their phone. So now you're seeing an icon that's really half an inch by half an inch. And so what you need to see is now the face of the actor because it's that small. So it's really crazy how this industry, but the one thing I would say is that lost part of what we had before with illustrators, at least I think, is slightly coming back, because companies like Mondo, there's been other companies that have hired illustrators to do movie posters based on, some great classics, and they've done some phenomenal jobs. And it's not to say that the computer is taking over what an illustrator used to do. It's just, when I used to be a graphic designer, I remember that I used to say to my teachers, yeah, I'm just using the computer as a tool. Doesn't mean that it's going to replace what you're telling me. I'm just using it as a tool because it's faster. But at the same time, if time is money, this is where things are going. And they used to get really mad at me. And so of course I used to cheat, use the computer, and then, make it look like I did it by hand. But
Nice.
the computer is just a tool, and the tool can actually, as long as you have, I think, great composition, as long as I think you have great, the themes and the colors represent what you're supposed to do, and your vision, even if you're using a computer, it shouldn't matter. It's just the artistic way of it. And as a matter of fact, the set, companies like Mondo, I think, have really put a lot of artists out there, which even studios recognize these artists and recognize. They just, how can I say, the studios will actually even let these guys license this thing so they could do it. They just
Right.
will never use it to advertise their movies, which is, it's a shame, because they just don't have the vision or the balls to do it, I think. At least that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, and on top of that, with posters from films, almost as if like book illustrators. Think about
Right.
it. They pride their idea and their thought on the illustration for the book for people to read it. Think about Jurassic Park. Think about A Clockwork Orange or
Right.
Jaws. Those books had specific illustrations that attracted everybody to buy that hardcover book. And very much with posters, it's the same thing. Now, we have been set back with, like you said, Rob, where, we're filtered for the idea that like the actor has to be first, or who has to be present in said poster. But over the years, we've had a multiple. You're talking from the 40s all the way on, because I think that's when it started, around the 40s,
Right.
and then all the way up till now. But there's been kind of a wave. It's been up and down, and it's been a loop based upon media and how it's being presented. And on top of that, you have to factor into the movie companies themselves on how
Right.
they're able to market the actual movie itself and what they want to present.
Right.
We still get the traditional ones from movies that we do truly love, that are legacies, but with newer ones, it's on a wave.
Yeah, I
It's like
just think
a snake, you know.
there's a beauty to you know, there's a beauty to those posters that were actually, actually hand drawn. There's just something about it. It draws your eyes. It really it might not represent a certain part of the movie. Which that's another thing I heard, people, like in market research, it's like, oh yeah, but there's, people complain that why is that in the poster and it wasn't in the movie? Oh, who cares? You know, it's
Yeah.
like shut the fuck up, man. But it's just, so but there's a beauty, I think, to it. And that's the part that I think that's missing because
The beauty is imagination, dude.
yeah,
That's
which
literally what it
That's
is.
yeah.
Is when you see that poster, it's kind of an amalgam of what is the story or even the structure of character based upon whatever they're creating within said movie. But the thing is that it's everybody's imagination before they get to see anything
right.
of what they're expecting. And I think it's kind of a forced perspective of what we're expecting of that movie when we get to see it in the theater.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say is that so because, of course, movies in general,
Mhm.
that business, there've been some great iconic posters out there, phenomenal posters that have, I mean, just lived the test of time and they really, really are recognized worldwide as soon as you see it. So our little challenge today is we're going to do our top five, you know, uh, movie poster draft. Normally I put a category on this, but we decided not to do that today. Today we're just going to pick these, these great movie posters because we do love, the subject matters and everything. So we are going. So I already, did who's
This
gonna be in order.
What?
Yeah, I already did that. So not to waste time, I already did that. So the first person, believe it or not, is going to be Adam. The second person is going to be Mark.
Oh wow.
Look at that, Mark. You still get, you're not last. Uh
When we first did it, I was first.
yes, I
yes.
know. And the second one is going to be myself and Frank. Yes, you are last, which gives you, remember, you get two.
Get to go
So
right.
that's, yeah. So you
Well, the
get two.
person is first, and
Yeah, correct. The
Well,
first one,
think about it this, Frank. Like Ricky Bobby always says, if you're not first, you're last. So
that's right.
jeez.
My son Walker. My son texted me.
So Adam, so we were talking about, movie posters. I mean, we have, out of the list that I put in here, we have great movie posters by some of the most amazing artists going back in time all the way till, the 1940s, 1930s, things like that. All the way up until actually almost recently, with some of them recently. So is there, what's your first pick as some of the top? So what I want to do is, what are the most iconic movie posters? What's our top five most iconic movie posters? I mean, look, if you go online, there's such a huge difference between everybody's lists. IMDb has their own list, the American Film Institute has their own list, and they differ from each other very much. So my thing is, fuck them. We're doing our own list. So what would be your number one, the one that you think is your absolute top favorite one of them all?
Hmm. See, that was kind of tough because I like a lot of movies. Um, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose one that I feel I'm not gonna say it's my favorite movie poster of all time, but I think when you see it, I have not seen a movie poster like this.
Okay.
Or if someone's done it, it was because of this poster. I'm gonna go with Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
yeah. I feel like it's such a like first off, when you look at the poster, you really don't know what the movie's about. And
No,
I
you
think
don't.
it's really good that, like it's such a simple poster and like well, I want to say simple as far as like composition, but like the more you look at it, the more things you start picking up. Like her eyes are the same color as the wings, and then it almost looks like there's like a little skull within the design,
Correct.
of like
The
the bug
moth.
itself. Yeah, the moth, and you can interpret it so many different ways. And I think because of that, and the fact that she's just looking straight at you, a lot of movie posters, the actors are looking off to the side or they're looking off to the shoulder, or like this one is just so clean and so plain, but like it looks creepy and and because you don't really know what it's about, I feel like it makes you want to see it. And then it just also happens to help that the movie itself is a classic. So I feel like the
Right.
poster matches the movie perfectly.
Right.
So, and then when you watch the movie, you actually appreciate the poster even more because of all like because then you start looking like, oh my god, like now I'm seeing everything connect in this very simple poster. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's one of like the I don't know. I just like the direction they went with that poster. It was just really good, and I feel like a lot of people attempt this. Like this was, I feel like this was like the turning point for people who try to do posters like this. I feel like they
Right.
referenced this one.
Yeah,
I can't really recall one before this that had this type of look and feel.
right. And the thing about it is that one, in today's world, you would never put anything over uh Jodie Foster's face because
Hmm.
honestly,
Right.
you can't really recognize her that much.
Exactly. Yep.
Like if I look at it, I'm like, to me, that does not look. I mean, I know how Jodie Foster looks like, but for the average person, like, will look at it very quickly. They won't see that it's Jodie Foster unless it's mentioned, and
Hmm.
that's something that you just won't have nowadays. You have to have
Yeah.
the actor in front there. It has to be, they have to look right. You can't have anything obstruct their face and things like
I
that.
mean,
So,
they definitely took a risk too with the poster because you're not featuring the other actors that were still kind of known in this. So it
right.
was a risky move, but I feel like they made a cult classic with the poster.
Oh,
Like you
absolutely.
see it and
Yeah.
it's just instant recognizable. Like
No,
it's just so good.
you're absolutely right, because normally Anthony Hopkins would have been on there,
Right.
so it's just something that it's a risk that they took, which you don't see as much. But I do like it. I mean, I think it's actually that's a great choice, man. That's awesome. So nice. All right. So, Mark, you are next. What is your number one movie poster of all time?
That would be John Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing. Oh, man.
Nice.
So, what can you
Ver-
tell me about this poster that you like so much?
See,
just how
one step closer to getting this one erased too. Okay.
the fact that it's so ominous. It's uh, uh, well, basically, the movie itself is based off The Thing from Outer Space,
The Thing
which
from
was
Another World.
another world. Sorry, uh, which was a short story. Obviously, I should have known this too
Right.
because I covered this on my podcast. But it's a remake, and it's very elusive. Everything is shattering. Everything looks icy, kind of starry-eyed, which is very much like something from outer space from the way it is. Somebody in a full overcoat with a hoodie and gloves, so you can't tell. So it's kind of ominous and very shattering, and it just like scares you into suspense of what are we to anticipate of this movie. And obviously the movie's a remake, but the original remakes poster was very kind of 50s
Right.
It had its
campy,
50s look. Yeah, I mean,
kind of like horror movie for its time.
your typical B movie horror film poster.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. And then with this
Especially at that time.
and this take, it's kind of ominous and mysterious. And it makes me it's the anticipation. And
Right.
I just love it too because it is a John Carpenter film, but you knew they were taking it on that angle because you don't know who this person is when you
Yeah.
look at this poster. So you could see a lot of people in the titles, who's there, Kurt Russell, a whole bunch of people, and literally you basic yeah, Kurt Russell's at the top of the name list, obviously. But you know, it just like captivates you and your imagination because of how sparkly it is.
Right.
Obviously, you could feel the cold from it because of it looks wintry, especially with the overcoat. But it gives you that what is going on with this movie? I want to see this movie because it's so mysterious.
Yeah.
I have to go see it.
The thing about this poster, I mean, of course, it's done by the great Drew Struzan. The thing
Yeah.
about this poster was that Drew was given no direction and no actual information on the movie itself. So he went ahead and just did this poster and just said, okay, I'm just going to create this. And that's it. And it has become a huge classic. I think it's just, first of all, the movie, I think is fantastic. But what he did there was nothing compared to what really happens in the movie. Because, and again, this
Right.
is an example of, hey, that didn't happen in the movie,
Yeah.
which is all of a sudden you have this light coming out of this person's face and you don't see the person's face, which in today's world, you'll never have a movie poster like that. You have to have Kurt Russell in the front, and then you got to have, all the other stars in the back, depending on, who has top billing and stuff like that. So this is a beautiful poster that I've seen it in people's home theater system, private home theaters.
Yeah.
Sells for a lot, a print on this, like if you get like a lithograph on this, sells for a lot too.
Yeah.
So no, fantastic. Fantastic. I like it. All right, so I am next, and the one movie that I am going to pick because, of course, my love for the franchise, the original franchise, is going to be, of course, The Empire Strikes Back, the one that Roger Castell did. So Roger Castell did this movie poster that has, because he has what is it, a Han Solo with Princess Leia underneath him, and it actually is reminiscent of Gone with the Wind poster, which George Lucas really liked that poster, so he put that element in there, and I think it's a beautiful poster. It's very hand painted. I mean, looks very hand illustrated and everything, but tells you also a lot about the movie, which is, of course, you see Luke on the Tauntaun, which kind of gives you that, at least a feeling of, hey, now they're, he was in a desert planet and now he's going to be in an ice planet or something because he's dressed in, winter gear. But it seems like also Princess Leia and Han Solo are now getting it on. And you still have, Darth Vader in the background, who kind of shows you that he's still the bad guy. And of course, you have the droids to the side. So I think that's has always been a beautiful poster. I love the way it looks, the composition, the colors. Also, if you're not familiar, each Star Wars movie always has like a color theme. So when you look at Star Wars, New Hope, it's more in the orange to yellowish. I know that Empire Strikes Back is more in the bluish side, and Return of the Jedi has more greens in it. It's just kind of a color choice that they did on that, and it's reflected on the posters and everything. So this one has that, that look. I would have picked the original Star Wars because, of course, that's a classic too, but I just like that one. And of course, the one that Drew Struzan did for the re-release of the special edition also is a fantastic poster too. I love that poster too. But that's my all-time favorite. That's like my number one there. Any insight, any things that you have to say about the poster too? Because I know you guys saw it in the movie theaters, and I know you guys, were attracted to it.
I really enjoyed it for the fact of it still had that mystery of what was going on. Obviously, the Gone with the Wind kind of look with Han and Leia. Obviously Luke in the forefront with the tauntaun, but also the silhouette of it being icy.
Yeah.
That shows right off how the movie starts off. But of course, you have in the bottom left corner, you got the droids and Chewbacca as well, which was a small nitpick group because within that movie they had to do combined because Chewie winds up taking care of C-3PO. It's not fortuitous within this, but it's so cool the fact within the movie we get that. But of course, we get to see the uh the TIE fighter fight, or if not the X-Wing fight at the very top right corner
Right.
from Vader's helmet. So it shows the extremities of what's going on within the film, but the anticipation of what's to come. Apparently it's icy. And this movie was very dark for its time, and it was the middle of a 3-act play.
Until this
So
day, it's
Right.
considered the best Star Wars movie of them all. So,
of course, yes.
so which is really cool. But I mean, how did this movie make you feel when you saw this poster? Because when I first saw this, I was like,
Hopeful.
"Yo, another Star Wars? I am down for this."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just the way it looked, and it was just completely different than the first. That's why I was just so intrigued by like the movie itself. But man, it really got me excited when I first saw that.
Yeah, I got excited too as a kid, little kid, and I was dragged to the theater by my father and his coworker and their kids and my brother and my sister. And honestly, we didn't know what to expect. Of course, you got the Homer Simpson kind of person and going out. It's like Darth Vader's Luke's dad. Spoilers.
All right. Frank, you are next,
Yo.
sir.
All right. Start this one off with a bang.
I think I know what you're gonna
Uh,
pick, but go ahead.
You don't know what I'm gonna pick.
He's
All right.
going
Anyway,
with Escape from New York. I know it.
I'm not gonna go with Escape from New York.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I am gonna go with Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, he
Oh.
stole from the original version that we did. No, from me.
Damn
Okay.
real. Somebody
Damn
took it
real.
before
He's
I
like,
could
I'm
get
bringing it back, baby.
I had it on my original list, and last time it got taken before I could take it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. You didn't get to
Okay.
hear that
Yeah,
version,
yeah.
but this is fun. So Frank got his revenge.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, that's a great poster. Again, done by the great Drew
Very.
Struzan. But what is it about this poster, Frank, that makes it your number one out there? Because this is a this is a kooky movie, man.
It is a cookie movie, and that's the reason why. And again, we actually did see it in the theater.
Right.
Uh, the poster really lets you know what you're in for. You know what I mean? Like Kurt Russell looks fantastic. He looks like he's like you believe it when you're watching the movie, his personality, because it comes through in the poster for sure. And then everything that's crazy in the background, again, just fits the movie because the movie's it's straight up bonkers. There's no reason why that movie should have even been made.
That movie nowadays would
was.
never be made.
It was
it's like a John Wayne wants to be
right.
James Bond.
It's a Western with a kung fu and magic and
Right.
dragons and freaking ghouls and come on.
18-wheelers and a
The
guy with a knife in his mouth.
The problem is the stereotypes are so bad nowadays when you watch that movie, but it's still a fun movie to watch.
It's a fun movie to watch. It is very dated. Sorry everybody who listened to Adrenaline Cinema podcast where Jamie, Jerry, and I covered this. Jamie was not very fond of it. We thought she would love it because she's a John Carpenter fan, but she never watched it before. This, if you like comedic action adventure, and when I say comedic, but there's a lot of story issues within it that Jamie will bring up, you could listen to that. But overall, the reason why I enjoyed it, and I'm sure Frank enjoyed it, is the fact
Yeah.
that, you got Kurt Russell and he's out there with the whole bravado. You got the humor, you got the kung fu, and that's literally
Right.
what you see. Look at what Kurt Russell is wearing on this shirt, well, on his chest. He's it. We can't say wife beater anymore. We could only say wife greeter, or what do they say now?
What?
Is that what it's called now?
Uh,
Is that the politically correct for a tank? Not a
Not
yeah, it's
on
a
this
tank top.
goddamn
For a white
podcast.
tank top.
yeah, it's a tank top, but with like a Chinese kind of emblem or artwork on it.
Right.
But
Yep.
yeah, you can't say wife beater anymore. I'm sorry, everybody. You got low pan in the bottom left corner. You got the truck. You got Gracie Law seductively
Right.
sitting there. You got Jack
It-
Burton there with his
It's just a
gun.
fun. Yeah, it's just a fun. Like when you look at the poster, it screams that it's a fun movie. There's action, of course, because you got Kurt Russell, with a gun and
Yeah.
looking all buffed and everything. But it just looks like a fun movie, which is what's supposed to happen, I think, with any um poster. It gives you an kind of an insight into
Right.
what you're about to, dive into, or at
Yeah.
least something about it. So, and of course, Drew Struzan is famous for, of course, for Harrison Ford has said it a ton of times. He makes actors just look more amazing than what they really look like in real life. So,
Yeah, that is true.
That's right.
So,
But
awesome.
this also gives us the city that it's based in too, because you could see
Right.
this the San Francisco Gold Gate Bridge right there.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So, Frank, you get another one.
I do.
Yes,
you
because
do.
now we're going back the
And
other way.
now I will choose Escape from New York.
Of
So
course
I'm
you
going
will.
to choose Escape from New York. And
right.
my reasoning behind that is, again, it's a great poster. It lets you know what you're in for. Uh, Kurt Russell on the front, gun, helping the girl, the head of the Statue of Liberty in the background, like
Which we
kind of
never
also giving a little bit of
which we never saw in the real movie.
exactly right. Never saw it in the real movie. However, it gives you kind of like, Planet of the Apes vibes, for the last scene.
Correct.
And I just think it's awesome. It's one of those things where you're like, yeah, I want to go see this movie. He's going to escape from New York. Damn it. I don't even know why, but I want to watch him escape.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, J.J. Abrams did an homage to this poster in the movie Cloverfield,
Yes.
where finally we had a Statue of Liberty head in the middle of the street. But yeah, that's awesome. Pretty cool,
Plus,
man.
let's be honest. At the time, we were all trying to escape from New York.
Yeah, some of us went to Florida. By the way, how's
Yes, sir.
so at the time of this recording, of course, there was a hurricane that passed through Florida. Did you get any of that storm lash or anything like that?
Luckily, we were far enough away that we really didn't get much more than some really heavy rain
Right.
and some really heavy wind.
Hmm.
But in the past, that has been enough to like knock down a tree or have a power converter blow and stuff. So
Huh.
we
Okay.
got very lucky.
That's
Awesome. All right. You're very lucky. Some people were not very lucky. So,
No, they got
Yeah.
a lot of people had to get evacuated and stuff. So
well, our hearts go out to them. So, continue on this. All right. So, I am next. And my next poster is going to be the movie that freaked the shit out of everybody out there when they first saw it. It was a movie that made people just I think honestly not even be able to sleep at nights because of how creepy this movie was. And that is The Exorcist.
Hmm.
So one of the beautiful things about this movie is the fact that you have the priest. It's at night. You have the priest
Right.
just standing in front of the house where the little girl is possessed, and there is a light
Reagan.
coming. Yeah, where Reagan, and there's a light coming out of the window where she's from, shining on top of him. And honestly, this movie poster doesn't really say much about
No.
what the movie is, but it still gives you an ominous vibe. Like, holy crap, what is it? Well, first of all, it's called The Exorcist, and at the time we didn't know what the fucking Exorcist was,
Right.
but it's I don't know. When I look at it, it still to me screams to this day like this is a classic movie. This movie, it creeps me the hell out because of how well it was done, and it is something that you just don't see nowadays. You will never see this type. This is a type of poster that you will see artists do in the secondary market or whatever it is, as a as something that they do for themselves, or they get, I don't know, a license through the studio to do it, just so to advertise it years and years, if not decades later. This is not the primary poster to advertise this. As a matter of fact, there's a new sequel to the
Right.
Exorcist, and what did they do on that poster? They already show the children already possessed on the poster itself,
Yeah.
which I think is freaking dumb. So I would love to just go to the the person who said, no, this is a good idea. Let's put those faces there because that's what's going to attract people to come in. But so, yeah, that's why I like it. And it's actually a classic poster. I mean, when people see it, they remember going to the theater, seeing this poster. So
Right.
it's pretty cool. All right, Mark, you are next.
All right. Well, I am torn because this is
By the
a
way,
movie.
I'm sorry. Before you go there, I didn't ask anybody else how you felt about, the Exorcist or the movie poster.
Oh,
And we was all agreeing with you.
well, I
Oh,
was
okay.
agreeing. Yeah, honestly,
Well,
I agree with you.
that was actually on my list, so you took one of the ones I was gonna take, which is fine.
Oh.
I got some other ones.
Okay.
I got some other ones.
Well, I think I'm
Yeah.
taking away from one of Rob's right now at this
Oh,
point.
okay. All right, Mark. So, here we go. Here we go.
So, all right. When we first made a try at this podcast regarding the posters, you actually picked this one,
Oh, man.
and it's from a series that just dropped on digital, the most recent movie, which was called The Dial of Destiny. But the movie that I'm going for, as far as the poster is concerned, is 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
You sound like Schwarzenegger. No,
You took my poster.
you just took it.
Oh,
Goody
How
man.
do you feel about me texting him now?
But yeah, Raiders was something that, well, in 81, geez, I was 9 years old when this movie came out. And I saw this in the theater with my brother and my sisters. And yeah, I wasn't ready for what came out, because this poster, if you look at it, it's just some guy smiling with a fedora hat, and a bullwhip. Fedora. He's got a gun holster, and then you got people in the pillars on the side, which shows something out of some sort of Egyptian
right.
like section, and then behind him is the ark itself. So you don't know exactly what's going on. You see Indy and Marion on the far left of the poster, and they're being strapped to a post. You see some Arabian guy there with a big, huge sword on the
Who gets shot in like 2
All right.
seconds. So
yeah. And then you see somebody with like some sort of thing holding his hands and face, and that I think that melting scene really scarred me for life. But the movie itself, the poster, it made me anticipate this movie as like an 8 or 9 year old kid when you first saw it in the theater, because you would go in, you go, I want to see that. Why? It screams adventure just by the
Right.
how Raiders is spelt out, and then Of the Lost Ark is a little bit more typist.
Right.
And then obviously you see in the forefront with his chest barely hanging out, with the satchel off to the side, and he's got his whip, his fedora, he's got his gun holster, everything, and it screams fantasy adventure film.
Right.
Now, I wasn't expecting to be scarred by melting faces at the damn movie ending, but
I didn't get scarred by that. I thought it was one of the coolest parts of the movie.
It was
So
awesome.
yeah.
oh, well,
Like, let's
I'm-
watch that again.
Let me tell you, I thought when I saw this movie poster and I saw it, first of all, I said, "Oh, it's Harrison Ford," right? And of course, I was
it's Han
young.
Solo.
Right? It's Han Solo. So Han Solo, different, but it seems exciting. And then I saw the movie and I fell in love with it for the rest of my life. With this movie. But no, it just what's
We
great
all
about
did.
what's great about this poster is, and I think with what we have picked. The beauty of these posters that we have all picked so far is the fact that when you see it, you wonder what it is about. And when after you see it, and then you look at the poster again and you go, oh, that was part of this movie. That was part of this scene. Or,
Right.
there's this scene here. And, so you see the little hints already in the poster. So if
Yeah.
you do see the movie again,
Mhm.
right? So, which I'm sure that's what every studio wants. Let's say let's say you're looking at that poster and you go, fuck, yeah, I want to see this movie again because I remember that part. I remember that part. I remember that part. Just like you were saying, Adam, about how Silence of the Lamb, there were certain things about that that poster that after you saw it, you saw the relations to it. And now when you see it again, since you remember the movie, I'm sure you'll like, oh, that's a great movie. I'll see it again.
Yeah.
So cool. Anybody else has any thoughts on Raiders?
Well, I was
Yeah.
kind of creeped out by how Mark was saying he's got his chest hanging out, but that was just me, I guess.
It got no hair on it either, too, by the way.
Wow.
Damn,
You're
man.
really looking hard at that one, ain't you?
Yeah.
All right, Adam, you are next. As a matter of fact, you get two shots here.
Right.
All right. So the first one I'm going to go with is Akira.
Oh,
Okay,
what
nice.
a great. That's a great
Great
poster.
movie.
It's actually funny the way I came about this movie. Didn't know it existed.
Really?
I was crashing at my sister's house, and it was like, I don't know, 1, 2 in the morning, and they paid for all the cable channels, so I was just scrolling through whatever, and then I caught this like at the very, very beginning, and then when I saw it, like because I was blown away, like I was
Right.
Yeah.
blown away by this movie, and then I really thought I was like, oh my god, this must be new because I never heard about it like that. And then, of course, it was not a new movie. It was probably like twice as old as I was, and it was just insane. And then eh, when I looked at the movie poster, I'm like, holy crap! Like the poster subtly tells you. I mean, it tells you you're gonna go for a ride. I mean,
Yeah.
visually,
Right.
that's what it's showing, but
On a bike.
on a bike. And it was just so crazy how ahead of its time the movie was, but even the poster just like this poster would just work for any anime that works today. Like you follow this and you would think, oh cool, like this looks like a brand new anime straight off the shelf. And then, of course, I had to do more research about the movie because of how old it was, whatever.
Yeah.
And they actually like invented colors when they were making this movie. Like there was like over 300 colors that were used for like
Right.
Right.
each frame,
Mhm.
but they actually had to invent colors for like throughout the palette. I think it was like they invented 50 new colors that like didn't exist.
Really?
And it's and you can tell because of just how vibrant and like it's so ahead of its time, but like the poster just there's nothing like the poster still works today. Like that bike still looks freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You know, that outfit, if I had balls, I would wear that outfit every day. Um, you know, it just and just it just even like the like just the title of the movie just looks so awesome with
Right.
like the Chinese lettering over it.
Right.
It was just, I don't know. Again, kind of like the Science of the Lambs. Like it's simple, but like after you watch it and then you see this again, you're like, damn,
Yeah.
this poster, like it was hinting what I was gonna be prepared for, but it over delivered on the movie. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
So if you guys
say,
want to talk about it before I go to my
yeah,
next
no,
one, but yeah,
I would say, let me tell you, so Akira, of course, is based off of the manga that, you know, they released in Japan. And I read that entire manga through an old comic book publisher called Epic Comics that came out with these like they would come out with like these you know,
Trade
thick,
paperbacks.
no, it wasn't a
Yeah.
trade paperback, it was a thick comic book.
Okay.
And I remember collecting all of them. And of course, the manga was in black and white, but they went ahead and colored it and stuff like that. And there is so much to this Akira story. This, like the movie itself is maybe 5% of
Right.
what the actual entire story
A
is.
quarter of anything of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But man, it's just like you were saying, it is so vibrant. To this day, I saw this movie, I would say 3 weeks ago, because I wanted to see it again. And it just blows my mind how well it's done. The animation is beautiful. The motion in the motion of the characters are sometimes very human like, but the bike, of course, is super famous nowadays, you know, because it's just such a unique looking bike. But I would say this much: this poster, probably one of the most recreated posters ever done.
Yep.
Because so many artists out there have done, you know, like let's say Batman walking to the bat pod, or if not, it's Mario walking to his cart. They have done so many parodies of this poster itself that one time I went in Pinterest and I was collecting to see, and I collected over 50 different subjects with the same look of Akira, and I was like, holy shit, I don't think no other poster has nobody else has ever done that with this kind of poster.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fantastic. I love this movie. When I heard about it, I had to see it and I was blown away. And again, that poster just kind of leaves you going, yo, I want that bike. If not for anything, I want to see that bike in action. So it's fantastic. Go ahead, Frank.
Interesting story. In Cyberpunk 2077, that bike is actually featured. And that was like the first motorcycle that I was doing. You got to do jobs and you have to save money to buy it. That was the first bike I saved money to buy. So.
That's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, do you realize that the movie, what is it, Nope, has an homage to Akira?
Yeah.
So there's that scene where Akira all of a sudden does kind of a slide with the bike.
Yep.
And in this, Kiki Palmer does it with the motorcycle that she's on, and I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, this is somebody that really loves this movie. So that's awesome, man. Great choice. All right, Adam, you got one more.
One fun thing too about it is that they actually had an anniversary screening on, I think, like 35 millimeter on film, and I was actually able to watch them in the theater, and it honestly, it brought me back to like when I first saw it, because that was the first time, well, the only time I've ever seen it on the big screen.
Right.
And man, it was just as good from when
it pops.
Yeah, it just holds up so well.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if they ever have a screening of this in the Dolby Theater, I will definitely dish out money to go see it.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about a live action movie? Because they've been talking about doing this for the past 10 years.
Honestly,
So
I
here's
think they should leave it alone.
I think they can do it. I follow this one guy. Well, it depends on the team, obviously, like on who's going to do it. And
the
definitely
Wachowski
cast it.
sisters could do it.
Yeah, like don't put Jake Gyllenhaal as the lead actor.
Yeah.
it's just nothing against Jake Gyllenhaal. He's great, but he's not
Yeah, just don't whitewash
Asian.
it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but I saw this guy. I followed him on Instagram, and he's picking certain scenes from the movie to recreate using Unreal Engine.
Uh-huh.
And man, it looks really good. And
Really?
but he's recreating shot for shot. It's not like he's just, oh, let me try to
Nice.
do like he's literally recreating it like small iconic scenes,
Right.
and they're looking really good. Now, obviously, like you're just taking the actual movie, just making it visually look better, which
Right.
is looks good. But I don't know. I feel like there's potential. I feel like it depends. Like I don't know.
Is it stills that he's making, or is it
No,
like,
it's live action, but he's using Unreal Engine. So
oh
Oh,
dude,
it's
wow.
you gotta send me a link to
yeah,
that. I gotta see
I'll
that.
send it. It looks pretty cool, but
Yeah.
all right. So the next one, uh, man, I know I only have like three more, so I got to be really picky. I'm gonna go with the ET poster where they're touching fingertips.
Oh man.
Rob got caught again.
Rob's face right then
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah.
I think he's regretting me going number one.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just again, like I like the simple posters. I like the fact that when you see it, you get an idea of what you're in for, but you're like, okay, there's still a lot that I know that this is not telling me, but
Right.
there's
Yeah.
promise in there that it just looks good. I mean, obviously it's an homage to the famous painting, I
In the
guess the
Sistine,
Michelangelo,
in the
Sistine
Sistine
Chapel.
Chapel, yeah.
Yeah.
So that itself, you're just setting the bar like, oh, alien meets human race, like,
Right.
and it just, you don't need explosions, you don't need,
Yeah, exactly.
gunships and the army, like it's just Earth, ET. It isn't even like, I mean, obviously it stands for extraterrestrial, but like it's just two letters, two hands, and the globe. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't get any more simple than that. And then of course the movie it's just a classic. And then now when you look at it, you're like, then you pick up the other things, how his fingertip, is how he connects and communicates and everything. So you start
Right.
to pick up all these little things, and you're like, oh man, like it just works. Like you don't see any faces of the actors. You don't see like the focus is on what the story is about in the most simplest form, and it's just like a first contact, basically.
Right.
So,
No, fantastic, man. First of all, that
yeah,
was like the one of the ones that I picked on the first go on this podcast.
yeah.
There's an interesting story behind that poster. So the artist that created it, his name is John Alvin. And so John Alvin actually, at first, they wanted him to do E.T. touching Elliot's head, and people thought that it looked too much like a gun pointing to a kid's head. So so somebody came up with the whole Sistine Chapel thing, and believe it or not, the person who stood in for the hands is actually the artist's daughter. So, which is really cool. But yeah, from what
Very
I
cool.
hear, Steven Spielberg saw this and he just thought it was the most perfect, thing out there. So that is fantastic, man. I love that movie and soundtrack, everything about that movie. It's one of the most perfect movies out there that I have ever seen. So,
Yeah.
so I remember when I first saw this, I was like, I think what struck me the most is the poster really did it. But when I heard that it was Steven Spielberg doing it, which already had such a good run, especially in the 80s, I think that was his best run of movies. This just was phenomenal. And I saw this in Puerto Rico, actually. That's where I actually saw it the first time. I was on vacation and then I was like, yeah, I'll go. Which is interesting because back then what they did is they still played it in English, but they just had Spanish subtitles. So I was the only, like, I was one of the few ones in the theater that was like, oh, I know how this sounds. Oh, it's supposed to sound. So awesome. All right, Mark, you are next.
All righty. I have to go sci-fi again.
Oh, here we go.
All right. I'm not going to go with my traditional that a lot of you listeners know from my podcast, but I have to go a little bit avant-garde.
Okay.
I'm not a huge Trek fan, but Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
You son of
Nice.
a bitch, man. That was the one I had last time. Everybody's taking my shit.
The way it's drawn out though and painted out, it looks pretty cool. You see Khan at the very top with kind of like looks like a skeletish kind of hand on his right hand, folded with folded arms.
Right.
But in back of him, his constituents over mountains and swirliness. It looks like desert. But of course, at the bottom left, you see Shatner as Kirk, you got Nimoy as Spock, and then I'm assuming that is Kirstie Alley just above Spock with her
Right.
character. And then you got the the Enterprise just below shooting something which looks like possibly Khan's spacecraft. Something that shows, and of course with Wrath of Khan, it's got shooting out in rainbow colors to give us that extravagant look.
Yeah, it had like a 3D chrome kind of look to it.
Yeah.
So
For its time during in the early 80s, it was like early to mid 80s at the time when this movie came out. So it just gives that bling look to it, or
yeah, and
that neon look.
this that poster was created by Bob Peak, who famously has done things like Superman, Excalibur, did Apocalypse Now, Star Trek the motion picture, of course, and then he did all the Star Treks for us, as a matter of fact. But he has a very distinct style to him that so many people have emulated, and that's a beautiful example of a poster that, so when you look, so perfect example of great looking poster, of course, is Drew Struzan, but Drew Struzan draws things very what I would say almost photorealistic, even though it does
Right.
look like it's actually illustrated, by brush. This was very stylized, which is something that you didn't see a lot of movies out there, like, because when you look at Khan, he doesn't look, he only
His face looks brush strokes.
he
Right.
slightly resembles Ricardo Montalban, but it's not an exact replication of him. So
yeah,
but that's a beautiful, beautiful poster. I've always liked that poster, and of course I liked it enough that I picked it on the first episode or the first try, and now they're all taking my shit. But that's okay, guys. I'm not gonna hold that against you.
He's gonna take revenge.
I'm not gonna hold that against
the wrath of Rob.
the rather that comes later, man.
Yeah.
So actually I'm gonna pick an oldie but a goodie.
Oh, okay.
Since I'm next. And the one I'm gonna pick is the original poster of King Kong.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
yeah, so it's if you guys look at it, it's poster number 2, which is actually King Kong on his side. So this actually came in a format that was actually thinner than your normal poster. But when you look at it, it's beautifully illustrated, and it tells you a lot about what the movie is about. I mean, it's about a giant ape is holding a girl, fighting off, some airplanes. But I think you want to know how this happened, and
Right.
and this because back then this monster of an ape, holding this poor girl, and it looks like he's on top of a building, of course, and the words King Kong. Excuse me.
Yeah.
The words King Kong have almost the same look as the Raiders title treatment, which I think is actually kind of cool. But I've seen this poster, or release a replica of this poster, at my friend's house, and he has a really big poster of this, and it just looks awesome. When you look at it, you could stare at it for such a long time because, of course, this was painted by brush, and this, I mean, of course, this poster goes for several hundreds of thousands of dollars if you could get your hands on the original in great condition.
Oh yeah.
Like the Boris Karloff, the Mummy actually went for like 500,000 at one point. So you could imagine what this King Kong probably goes for also. But it's a beautiful poster. I just like I love the composition. I love the colors. I think it's just a very well done poster. At the same time, kind of gives you an idea of what the movie's about, but it's intriguing enough that back then in 19, I think it was what, 1932 or something like that.
30s, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it really got people into the theaters, and people,
Celebrating 91 years.
yeah, so beautiful poster. That's my pick. And so, what's your take on it, guys?
I love it. We covered this on Adrenaline Cinema podcast, Jerry and I, for its 90th anniversary and last year, and it's amazing. The movie is great. I really think it depicts exactly what you would be expecting at that time. And if you look at poster one, which you have here listed, which is
Right.
him, and he's got Fay Ray in his left hand, everybody else below him, and then you got King Kong scrolled out, pretty much depicts exactly what you're expecting. A very large, like, gorilla
Right.
going after people at this point, but you don't know what to expect. But at that time, obviously the movie was in black and white. This is color, so this expands their imagination
Correct.
at that point to go see the movie.
I just think also because there were three different posters, which I think you guys could see that
Right.
now. And I wish actually everybody out there could see what we see. But if you do a little bit of research online, and of course we will have all these posters listed in our Facebook group, and you can actually vote on who actually has the best list.
Yeah.
But if you will do a little research on this, you will see that out of those three posters, like the one I picked, I think has the nicest look. There's something about it because it's on its side, and because it's long, it really just focuses on him. And you could, because it looking as a long poster, you could tell somehow that he is up somewhere high. I don't know. It's just the way,
Right.
the format of the poster.
He's on a pillar, and you could see the city in the background.
Right. It just gives you kind of a sense of height, which is really cool. So I really like that poster, and yeah, so that's what I'm picking. All righty,
I love
then.
the lettering.
Right? I mean, like I said,
The lettering is really good.
It's almost reminiscent of like what Raiders is, because again, back then the title treatments for all these old movies sometimes was really cool on these posters, and Raiders, I think, did a really good job at that, trying to capture some of that, the old serialized shows from the 40s and 50s. And so the King Kong actually looks pretty cool. All right, Frank, you are next.
And how fitting that we were talking about serialized media or the movies that they used to have, because my choice is Flash Gordon.
All right, cool.
Let me tell you, man. Awesome.
This is an awesome
the poster great
because
the poster's amazing. Yeah.
Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless. He looks spot on. Like, if you ever watch the old serials and you see some of the actors who portrayed Ming the Merciless, he's got it. He's got it all. But then you've also got,
the Hawkman.
Flash, right? You got Hawkman, you got Flash Gordon, who it's obvious that this is Flash Gordon, right?
Dale Arden right next to him.
Dale Arden, yep. And it's just beautiful. It gives you a great idea of what you're getting into when you go to see this movie. And then it even gives you more information because it's like, hey, we got music from Queen. And at the time when this came out, man, you couldn't find anybody bigger than Queen to do your movie soundtrack.
Right.
It's like, oh my goodness. And it's a fantastic soundtrack at the same time.
No, that's a great poster. I think it was beautifully done. This is a great example of what I would say the poster looks so much better than what the actual film was.
Hey.
Don't be knocking Flash Gordon, man.
Don't be knocking it.
Look, man. I mean, Flash Gordon is, how can I say, definitely a product of what, the 70s? Yeah, the 70s.
Well,
No,
late
it's the
70s,
80s.
early 80s at this point, because this was like what, 80, 81?
Was it 81? Something like that. Okay, whatever. But it was just, it's a product of its time. And when you look at it now, it's just a very hokey looking movie, but the poster still works, I think, tremendously. At least for
It
me, it does. I
it
mean,
has like a Topps baseball card style cinematic look to it.
It's
The
nice, yeah.
the
it's
way you have the logo at the very bottom, but the
right,
etching out, and it's kind of rectangled off, and then linking into Ming the Merciless with his ring,
right.
which we don't find out until the end.
Right.
But then you get, the Hawkman on the bottom right. There's Flash with his sword. You got Dale Arden right next to him. Oh, Flash! And then you have the floating castle, which would be actually the Hawkman's the world
Right.
at
The
that
floating
point.
Right.
city, yeah.
Yeah, this is I believe this also has that look of that some other artists have done where the bad guy is the one that actually takes, front, not front
Front
and
and center,
center,
right.
back and center,
Hmm.
just to kind of show you who the antagonist of the movie is going to be. So it's actually, I know, I love this poster. I mean, the movie, it's okay, but the poster, I think, for me, is
Look,
better.
man,
All right.
stop knocking Flash Gordon, okay?
Well, here's something interesting about the poster itself. All right, we didn't really talk about this much on other posters that we've already covered. Part of which I will actually mention now. With this one, you could actually see under the bottom left, like right by Ming's left arm with the ring going up,
Right?
you could see the artist's signature on the poster.
Mhm.
Which is very rare.
And we've talked about other posters before, but we have seen those signatures on these particular posters.
Right, but the thing is that that's very rare because these artists usually studios did not want to give them credit,
Mm-hmm.
and it was only after probably after the 60s or something like that, or the 70s, where you started seeing the artists actually sign their stuff. So like Drew Struzan would sign their art. Uh Another person that would actually sneak in his name in there
As part of
is
the artwork. Yeah.
yeah, is John Alvin. So John Alvin will sneak like the word Alvin. You see it in Blazing Saddles. You saw it in Blade Runner, the movie Blade Runner. The on the poster, it's on the side of a building. It's his name. Because again, these movie studios did not want to give, these guys any so yeah, so the fact that artists started signing afterwards was still good because they were at least getting recognition in
Yes.
that sense. So, all right, Frank, you go next. One more.
Yes, I have one more. And that next one is going to be
Here we go.
Excalibur.
Oh, jeez. That's
Ah,
another great movie. That's a
yes.
really beautiful poster, let me tell
It's a
you.
classic movie.
Exactly. It it's again another example of you can see what you will get. Like, there's not really anything in this that actually didn't happen in the movie.
Right.
You got him. You got the lady in the lake with the sword with Excalibur. You
Mhm.
got Mordred fighting with Arthur. All of these things are in there, and it's just really cool the way that they laid it out, the coloring of it. It's going from the lights of the blues to the reds, and it's awesome.
It's fantastic. As a matter of fact, I believe that was Bob Peak also, who did Wrath of Khan and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
again, his artwork was phenomenal at the time, and just such a beautiful thing to look at when you look at it. It something you just will never see today, man. That's all
That
I
is
can say,
true.
man. You will never see as
Elegant.
not only elegant, but as the main advertisement for that movie. No, you would never see that. you would have to have all the actors front and center because everybody, has contracts and all this shit, So, but this is a beautiful way of actually portraying a movie, I think, for its time. And the movie was actually very good. It was long.
Right.
Fuck,
Yeah.
was it long? But
Yeah.
man,
It's really long. Yeah.
yeah, it is really long. But that was what that is. All right, so I believe I am next, and out of all the ones that you guys grabbed from my from the first time we did, at least I could still keep this one.
Blade Runner.
No, believe it or not, even though I love that movie as much as I do. Um, you know what? I mean, I could, but there's as much. Look, I truly, truly love Drew Struzan's artwork. I mean, it is, to me, by far, he's the best artist out there. And don't get me wrong, there are some great artists out there, movie poster artists out there, but there's just something about how magical his stuff looks. It's just beautiful.
Oh yeah.
But I tend to pick sometimes the original more than the redos. But the one I'm picking, which again, the story behind this is actually very interesting, is Apocalypse Now. So Apocalypse Now,
Oh.
yeah, Apocalypse Now is
Nice.
actually done again by Bob Peak, I believe. And the interesting story about Apocalypse Now is the fact that, so it turns out that this is probably Bob Peak's favorite, or was Bob Peak's favorite poster that he ever did. It's the one he actually spent the most developing and doing. And there's an interesting story behind this. So you see Marlon Brando front and center, and then in the upper right, you see Martin Sheen. Well, originally that was supposed to be Robert Duvall, but because Robert Duvall was not getting along or something like that with what is it? Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he wasn't getting along with him. He told the artist, "Do not put my face on that poster." So Martin Sheen became the face up there in that corner. But it's just, again, this is a Bob Peak poster, which just says so much about how he does his things. Beautifully done, beautifully rendered. You still don't know what the hell this movie's about. I guess you gather that it's about Vietnam because you see the helicopters in the on the sunset in the background, but you don't really get much. Does it look like Marlon Brando? Yes. Does it look like Charlie Sheen? Yes. But it's it's not it's not a Martin Sheen, but it's not a photorealistic thing, which is still fine by me. So that's why I have a hard time when I have a hard time believing that people, if they see an illustration of an artist, they think that it's of an actor, they think that it's an animated movie, or that it looks too
That makes no sense.
That makes no sense at all. So, but yeah, so that's my pick there.
Just to go back to that story.
Yeah.
I feel it's interesting because Martin Sheen is the actual, granted, it's Marlon Brando was the bigger draw, but Martin Sheen is the star of the movie.
Correct. But the person getting paid the most is
definitely Marlon Brando.
And
but the fact that they were going to have Robert Duvall on, and really, if you think about it, Robert Duvall is not really in the movie that long.
No, but he's also another person that got paid a lot of money.
Exactly, because he was in The Godfather along with Marlon Brando.
Correct.
And if you put Marlon Brando and
Robert Duvall on
the front of the cover, more people are going to show up. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
No. Don't get me wrong, this movie still made shitloads of money. So
no, it's great.
It's not. As a matter of fact, there's if you're really interested in, because of course this depicts the Vietnam War. Excuse me. If you're really interested in the great story behind Hollywood and the Vietnam War, there's a podcast called what is it? I'm trying to remember here.
If you
Oh
say Hollywood and the Vietnam War, I'm going to really be upset.
no, no,
That's the name of the podcast.
no. It's called The Big Picture. So The Big Picture normally they
Okay,
discuss,
gotcha.
they review movies and stuff like that, but
Isn't that
some
Donnie Deutsch or something like that?
no,
No. Okay.
no. But the Big Picture is a great podcast. It's part of the Ringerverse, but they just had a
Ah,
series of 8 episodes on how Hollywood depicted the Vietnam War. And let me tell you, it is a great 8 episodes. If you could go hear it, it is fantastic. The amount of information I learned on Hollywood and the Vietnam War and all these stories that got made and things like that was just insane. It was just great. I mean, they did so much research for that, but it is really good. So, and they mention, of course, Apocalypse Now and all the stuff that all the production things that they went through, and it's really cool. So, Mark,
who is not here?
Mark, Mark.
I am here.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I got distracted. For
You're in the middle of a podcast. How the fuck are you this?
it's fine. I am
All right.
back and I am here. And for my next one,
Mm-hmm.
Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, that's a really cool. That's a really nice. Is that in the list here?
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
Okay.
So it's kind of depiction of like Jack Skellington on his mountainside, which is directly from the movie. And on top of that, he's in front of a moonlight, but you see a pumpkin patch below. But it's kind of ominous. We don't really know exactly what's going on, but I think it's amazing for the fact that, I love Halloween. And I think we all love Christmas to some degree as with our own, but the anticipation of like it's a nightmare before. So it's like, what is going on with this and that image? And what do we take from that?
Fantastic movie. Of course, it's Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Which, he's known for his whimsical way of doing things, and of course, everything always has to be very gothic with him.
Yes, correct.
But no, it's a great movie, and it's become such a big cult classic. You definitely see this movie poster a lot in Hot Topics.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, Hot Topic, the shop in the mall, but on top of that, it adds to the typical Tim Burton mystique that's out there that we all know and we love.
Correct.
That you and I have discussed on the Flash movie, which was literally just Batman Returns again with Michael Keaton, and yeah, and it's that same fashion and form that we all love, like Frankenweenie, and it's in his macabre and his status, so you know what to anticipate when you see this, like Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas,
right?
In comparison to if you just saw The Nightmare Before Christmas and you saw all this stuff going on, you'd be like, well, who did it? What is this mess? As soon as you see Tim Burton, you're like, oh, Beetlejuice. Oh, Edward Scissorhands.
Right.
I know what I'm getting. Some sort of dark, twisty, but when they put Christmas in it, you're like, ooh.
All right. So awesome.
Yeah.
Frank, you are next.
Yes.
No,
Right?
I'm next.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say,
I'm
I
sorry.
don't think so.
I'm so sorry. Adam, you are next. You get 2 shots there.
All right.
These are your last 2.
I had to think long and hard, pause on this one.
Okay.
So the first one I'm gonna pick is Beetlejuice.
Okay.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah. So
that's
actually hanging on my wall.
Is
kind
it
of
really?
like what? Yeah, I have a lot of posters on my wall. That's one of them. It just it was definitely a movie that like creeped me out when I first saw it. Like there was definitely some like parts that I felt like was not age appropriate when I saw it, but I've grown to love the movie over the years. But again, it just tells you everything about what this movie's about, but at the same time, you're still left wondering like, man, like okay, there's a guy who doesn't have a head, there's a bride, there's a guy who looks out of his mind with green hair.
Looks
You
like a
know, there's
zombie kind of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and then you got weird creatures hanging around the house, and you know, even down to like Winona Ryder's character wearing the red dress, which becomes kind of like iconic within the movie itself.
Right.
It just you know, it reminds me of like a lot of the older posters, kind of like the ones like Frank picked or whatever, where like kind of like Big Trouble in Little China. It
Right.
reminded me of that,
It's a
where like
fun,
you look at
yeah.
the poster, you're like, okay, there's some horror in here, there's like some creatures, you know, but something it looks quirky, like
It's Michael
it
Keaton.
intrigues you. It's Michael Keaton, and this is a very different role for him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you're seeing him in full blown makeup. Um, you know, the fact that there's a headless person, not you know, I don't know how if you can even get away with that today, if they would even allow that on a poster, but it just it just worked like so well, you know, like just and
Absolutely.
now of course, again, when you watch the movie, then you see this poster, you start picking up all the little subtleties
Right.
from the movie into here, and you're like, oh my god, yeah, there goes the guy with the weird, you know, small head, and then oh, that's actually her face that's stretched out, and it's just yeah, it just works really well, and you know, it
Right.
screams what the movie's about more even before you even watch the movie.
Right. No, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And it's like you were saying, it just looks like you're gonna have some fun. It looks like a fun horror film. Like you don't even know what
Yeah.
to make of it. Is it a horror film or is it a comedy?
Yeah,
It
it's
seems
like
like it's
a
a comedy.
comedy
Yeah.
horror.
Comedy
Haunted house
horror, you
movie.
know,
Yeah.
right. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Quirky.
fantastic. And of course, done by the great Drew Struzan, who
Right.
again, he's phenomenal at what he does all the time.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right. Adam, this will be your last pick, and you will be done with your 5.
So I'm gonna pick this one only because this was my first real introduction to this franchise from a movie theater perspective. Even though I've seen all the movies leading up to this one before, it's gonna be Star Wars Episode 1.
Ah,
Yeah. So to me, this was like
so
when
which
I
one?
was
So which one? Because there's an interesting thing about that. There is the re-release that, you know, for the special edition by Drew Struzan, but then there's
Hmm.
the first one. So when you look at poster 1, there's
the one
that's
with
the
Darth Maul in the background.
Really?
episode 1.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Episode 4.
episode 4.
You're
I'm so
thinking A New
sorry.
Hope.
Yeah, I'm thinking New Hope.
No,
See
not New
that
Hope.
see
That's
this
our
is
episode 1.
this
Yeah.
is our
No, no,
that's
no.
my episode
I'm
1.
going by the act Phantom Menace. I should have been more
Phantom Menace.
specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously, like I saw the original trilogy growing up. Like they came out before, you know, I
Right.
was born, but I grew up. Those are the 3 movies that I just watched on repeat, watched on repeat. There was nothing else to watch. And then by the time this was coming out, there's just for me at least personally, there's just been so much buildup to now finally experience a new Star Wars movie in the theater, waiting on the long lines and all that stuff, and then looking at the poster. So that's when I see this poster, that's what it brings. That's the memories that I get from this. And then of course, just looking at the poster, you get all the classic stuff, right? You have the villain with the eyes, kind of reminiscent to the one that Rob picked out, where you see Vader in the background and
Correct.
his eyes are on there. You know, you have, you know, a young, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, you have the droids, you have, you know, the best character ever made, Jar Jar Binks, and then you have you know,
Okay.
the real Phantom
Like for a
Menace.
second there, I was thinking, if he's if this is bull.
If
He's
he's serious, we're
just
deleting this
waiting.
episode. No, but I
Oh,
just
man.
feel like it you know, it recalls the classic posters, but now you're just getting a whole new slew of characters to kind of like look forward
Right.
to.
Right.
Um, And yeah, just the illustration looks really good because now you don't get that with with the latest trilogy. They're very digital. They're very just actual photographs of these people. This one felt like a nice transition from the old to what the current new is going to be.
Correct.
With digital
And
effects, you're saying?
yeah,
Okay.
and then just even and to me, I mean, my favorite part of the poster is just Darth Maul because
Right.
this is a brand new bad guy that you have not seen with this type of like face paint and just those
Correct,
eyes.
yeah.
So it just I don't know. It
He
just
had
left a
horns.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it just I don't know. It just
And let's admit
yeah.
it, man. Darth Maul's a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have an underlying, Darth or
He's
Sith
so
Lord.
interesting that they were forced to bring him back. Like
Yep.
he wasn't dead.
Right.
Well, through Rebels and Clone Wars,
Right.
but with the
it's
true
supposed to be canon.
darkest, well, the true darkest character still has to come, and Misa gonna be the biggest Darth Sith you ever see.
God, you got to stop doing the voices.
You really do. You really do. Okay.
You really do.
You want to go back to like
You creep me out, man. It's just
Misa.
that shit's got to stop, man.
you want to keep talking about Gary Oldman? Go right ahead.
Gary Oldman. Who talked about Gary Oldman?
You talk about Gary Oldman all the time.
Previously, buddy.
Oh, I thought you said Gary Coldman. I was like, what did Different Strokes have something
my
to do with
God.
this? Okay.
Well, you talking
Gary
about Willis?
Coleman?
What up, Willis?
Fucking podcast took a left turn somewhere.
It did, yeah.
Oh man, going back.
One
to,
thing I wanted to mention though about
I had to digress.
the Darth Maul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you guys get caught with that April Fool's joke when Netflix was supposedly going to release a Darth Maul origin
Really?
series?
No,
I never heard of this.
They actually went out and then on April Fool's Day they released a fully produced movie trailer for a Darth Maul series, and people almost
That
like
is
they
awesome.
didn't know if it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. Like, I mean, now when you watch it, it looks a little dated and like, oh, okay, it's kind of like low budget. But back then, they were just like, wait, but why would they go through all this trouble to make a fake trailer and full makeup? And how did they get the rights to even use the character? And
Right.
so for like a good like hour, I was really confused if I should be excited or not for a Darth Maul or because I was like the idea of a Darth Maul origin like series, I would sign me up. Like
yeah.
I would totally watch it. But
well, you never know with Ahsoka
Yeah.
now. They could always bring him back. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, they.
sure.
I mean, he came back in Solo, a Star Wars story, so he was in that.
And he was in Rebels and
Yeah. So the thing is that no, let me tell you, that would have been cool. Except they already covered his origin in I believe it was.
I mean, this is all pre
Disney all that
Plus,
stuff,
pre
so,
everything.
but-
So
yeah, but that's
this would have
awesome.
been like the first
It was in the Clone Wars.
TV live action series. So that I think that was also part
Right.
of the hype. But yeah, so
Nice.
Star Wars
Okay.
Episode 1. That'll be my.
Let me
final
tell you,
pick.
I saw that poster, and of course, I fell in love with that poster because we didn't get a freaking Star Wars for so long, and the ominous eyes in the back were just fantastic.
Yeah.
And then knowing that that little kid will become Darth Vader, it was fantastic. You guys remember the teaser poster before this one?
Oh, with the shadow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
That one.
Anakin
Him,
walking,
like,
then
yeah.
and the shadow
Yeah.
looked like Darth Vader. I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, then this one came out, and I was like, "Oh!" And of course, by then, I think a lot of people already knew who Drew Struzan was, and the fact that when he did it, I mean, this thing sold like crazy. People went nuts for this, and then people saw the movie, and people said the poster is still nice. All right, Mark, you're next.
All right. I have to go back to what I love. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one will I get to toad? All right, we are going with the Goonies.
The Goonies. Nice.
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 So,
Very
uh,
nice.
and I'm wearing the shirt. Ah.
Ah, awesome.
Look
So,
at that.
so I have to. Yeah, The Goonies was something that came out when I was 13. I saw it in a drive-in. But I had seen the poster, and we always were anticipating. It's like you see these kids; they're holding on to some sort of
A stalactite
a
or
stalactite or something.
which
And
is it
the
stalactite or
It's
stalagmite?
tight.
Tight.
Yeah.
tight
Might
Tight
comes
comes from the top, and might
might
comes
comes from the bottom. Okay.
bottom.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Mr. Science Wizard over here. All right. Go ahead, Mark.
But you see all these kids, and you could tell it's painted out. The top kid has the bandana, so we all know who he is. And then we see all the other kids descending and holding each other's legs, arms, bodies, things of that nature. And we're wondering what is going on. But Goonies is spelled out with the eye with a skeleton on top.
Right.
So you're like, oh my God. And of course, it's PG. What was it? PG 13? PG.
PG back then. Yeah.
PG back then.
Yeah.
Of
PG.
all things.
What was PG? What was the first PG-13? I believe it was.
Gremlins.
I literally was just thinking that myself.
Gremlins. And the reason why I knew this is because people were having issues with the horror of everything within Gremlins and how it was hurt, kids were getting upset. And it's like, oh, but parental guidance at 13, even or before 13, and people were still bringing them there. But yeah, that was the first one. But this was PG. But when you got Chunk going, oh shit, in the movie, they're using 4-letter words in this movie. They're already publicly ridiculing large young children at that point, do the truffle shuffle. And then and threatening to cut off all his fingers with a blender. But the poster kind of gives us, because you see in the back of the kids at the very bottom a map, which is so cool because it kind of resembles Dick Donner was great with like picking this piece of art because it gives you that feel of adventure with them all hanging together, but with the map in the back, and you wondering what is going on with this. And I have to see this. So I get to see this movie in a drive-in, and this was not the poster I saw. I actually saw this poster in the theaters before I got to the drive-in, like a month before in anticipation, but it was a little bit different.
right.
And I can't recall it, but it wasn't this particular poster. But it gave you that whole feel of like, wow, these are a bunch of kids. I want to go see these kids, and
Right.
what's happening to them.
So
It gave that adventure of like Raiders of the Lost Ark with kids.
Yeah.
So Mark, I believe that the first PG-13 movie was not Gremlins.
What was it?
So Gremlins and Indiana Jones and the
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom
Mm-hmm.
were the reason PG-13 was released.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. Okay.
Right. I think the first PG-13 movie out there was Red Dawn.
Thank you. I thought I was like, damn it.
I should have known that because I covered that, but okay. Wolverines. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie with Patrick Swayze
And Leah Thompson.
and all those people.
Yes. Charlie Sheen.
Comes out.
All right. So yours, interesting enough, and we'll go back to your Goonies. Goonies is a perfect example of a movie poster that, first of all, I love that movie poster. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful poster.
It is.
But it's a perfect example of what some people here, I believe in the United States, maybe in other countries, but the thing is, I just don't have a lot of faith in some of our people here. And I'm not trying to be anti-American or anything like that. There's not a political podcast, but it's just the fact that if you guys think that this
Here we
movie,
go.
just because it did not have this as a scene in the movie, stop complaining because the movie was still great.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a perfect example of some of these movie posters creating a scene that is kind of what I would say in the spirit of the movie, but is not a scene of the movie. So while I think I still love this movie a lot, this is what we were talking about before, is the fact that there are people out there that will complain, why isn't this in the movie? So, but
Well, one thing to point out too about this specific poster is that there are no actors listed in the credits. It's just about the producers, the writers, the director. So it's funny how you have like no top billing in regards to the actors. Like what they were really banking on was Steven Spielberg being a producer and Richard Donner being the director.
correct.
That was the names that was selling this movie back then. So it's nice to not nice. It's interesting to see
Right.
the credit approach on this one, which rarely happens on movie posters. Usually every single actor name has to be plastered all over it.
No, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I think, and again, this is when we were talking about, I think Steven Spielberg had a run in the 80s where, because the movie was being done by Steven Spielberg, his name took top billing more than the actors, which I think was pretty awesome, because guess what? Yeah, it was Steven Spielberg who did the movie and made the fucking movie great. So, so it is. That's pretty much how it is. I mean, how many great actors have we had in really bad movies?
True.
A ton of them, right?
Yeah.
So
these actors have been in crappy movies.
What was that?
These actors on this poster have been in crappy ass movies.
Yeah,
They have.
Josh
You're absolutely
Brolin, Ashley Greene, I think her name is.
Hey, Josh Brolin was Thanos. Okay.
Yeah, I know that now, but I'm saying before then.
Yeah.
Ashley Greene. I think her name is Ashley Greene. I could be getting it wrong. Ki Kwai Kwan. Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Martha Plimpton, and who was Chunk?
Well, out of all of those, one of them just won an Oscar.
Yes.
And
Ki Kwai Kwan.
Right. And the other one is making shitty movies. So that being said, all right. Now
Whoa.
So I am going to pick for this is my last one. So I am gonna definitely pick a Drew Struzan movie, and it's one of my favorite movies. But it's not the original poster. It is the director's cut, and that is Blade Runner. So
I knew you were going there.
Yeah. What can I say about this poster? I mean, first of all, it's Harrison Ford, which we all, went crazy for. It's like, oh my God, a sci-fi movie with, Harrison Ford, another Star Wars, right? Did not turn out to be that way, but it did turn out to be possibly the most celebrated and the best sci-fi movie of all time. And of course, beautifully done, beautiful brush strokes, definitely gives you the vibe of the movie, especially after you've seen the movie. You look at this poster and you know each of these scenes. It's just a fantastic movie. I mean, it's just a fantastic poster. And of course, Drew Struzan did it. He did several versions of this movie, of this poster, but this one actually is just a great, great looking poster. And because it's a director's cut, every time there was a different cut, there was a different cover or something like that. But yeah, so that's why I like it a lot. Any thoughts on you guys?
Yeah, we all love it.
I love the poster itself.
Don't everybody talk at once?
No. I was just thinking, because you see Rutger Hauer, you definitely see Harrison Ford, you see all the different actors and their different guises and how they look.
You see two shots of Harrison Ford, which is always
him
very
with the gun as Decker below, and of course the one colored look of him above.
right. So you see Sean Young, you see, of course, yeah, like you said, Rutger Hauer. I forgot the name of the person who plays Tyrell, but
Oh, nobody knows that.
nobody knows that, right? But like I
Not without
said,
the internet.
I
And
just love
Joanna Cassidy, obviously, too, with the
right.
python around her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joanna Cassidy. Yeah.
So fantastic. I mean, with what I do and of course, as a living, I've seen so many private home theaters, and this is again, besides seeing Indiana Jones, besides seeing possibly, The Empire Strikes Back or something like that, or The Thing, you also see the Blade Runner poster a lot. I mean, it's just something that people just gravitate towards, so it's pretty cool. Awesome. Frank, you are our last pick before we're done.
Yes, I am. And my pick is going to be The Dark Crystal.
The Dark Crystal.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Awesome.
Yeah.
I just love that poster. You don't really know at the time what the movie's going to be about. You just know it's Jim Henson, and it's you look at it, you're like, oh, that buzzard looking thing that's on there, and all of these other characters. But then once you see the movie, it's again one of the ones that when you see the movie and then you look at the poster, you're like, oh, this all makes sense now. We got the Gelflings over here, the Skeksis over here, and the Dark Castle and everything like that.
Right.
And it all makes sense once you're at the end.
Did you ever see what was it, the second part on Netflix?
I started watching
it.
Yeah.
How was it compared to the first?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it because I was just like, whatever.
You could still always go back to it. It's not like they stopped streaming it.
No, I know, but it just didn't attract. Like, first of all, the first
why
movie.
Should I waste my time?
Well, because the first movie I saw it in the theaters and I thought it was good, and then but it's never been a movie that I want to go back to.
Yeah, it was. I always thought that too. I always thought, okay, it's one and done. And I watched the first 2 episodes, and I said they should have just left it alone. But that's just my opinion.
I actually got farther than that. I think I might have even got like to 4 or 5.
Yeah, really? there's certain IPs out there that they should have left alone.
Yeah, that is true.
So fantastic.
I was caught up in the excitement.
Yeah. No, this poster is actually pretty cool. I mean, and this is another great example of a poster that artistically tells you, and I think what really sells it is the Jim Henson name.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially back then, Jim Henson was a huge name, and
still is,
but back then even more, especially when he was alive.
Mm-hmm.
So fantastic. All right, and it's a beautiful poster. I think it's actually really nice. All right, so that is our picks. So just to kind of give you
one more. Frank gets one more.
That's it.
No, that was the last one.
That was the last one.
Was it?
Yeah, each one of us get 5. And that was his 5th.
Oh, okay, good. I thought he had 2.
Rob's been writing it down. It's okay.
No.
Yeah, I have them all here.
When you're the first person, you get 1. And then when you're the last person, you get that last one that you have. Yeah.
Right.
I must have forgot that in kindergarten. Okay, good.
Yeah, because when you started, Adam, you only got 1. Remember, you didn't get right. So, all right. So here's the lineup. Adam's picks are Silence of the Lamb, Akira, E.T., Beetlejuice, and Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Mark has The Thing, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, A Nightmare Before Christmas, and The Goonies. I have Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, The Exorcist, King Kong, Apocalypse Now, Blade Runner, and Frank has Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, Flash Gordon, Excalibur, and The Dark Crystal. So please let us know out there, who do you think has the best list? After seeing all that, me personally, after seeing this list, I'm going to be very honest with you. I think the person who has probably one of the best lists here is between, I would say, Frank and Adam. At least that's my opinion. I think personally I come in last because even Mark's picks are really, really good. So, hey man, I don't normally
So-
admit that shit.
Rob is like,
Rob's like, you
Yeah,
stole all my
my-
shit from the last time.
exactly. You stole all my shit. That's why mine
Everybody
are less.
stole my shit. So no, but it's actually, I mean, honestly, this is basically our top 20 posters of all time for, you know, Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, because if all 20 of us pick this, that means that's our top 20. I mean, if all four of us pick this is our top 20. And it's a good 20 movies. I mean, these are, first of all, iconic.
Oh, yeah.
These are great iconic movies. These are movies from my childhood that just really sparked our imagination and really made us love movies, you know, the way we do now. So this is a fantastic list. Again, let us know what you think. We are on Facebook, and we're also on our Facebook group. You can find us there. We're also on Instagram, and if not, you could always, you know, give us a email, you know, send us an email at fantasypicksmovieedition@gmail.com. A brief thing on all these posters that exist out there when it comes to some of the best movies that are out there. And unfortunately, these movies that have become big classics, the artists who were part of that don't get as much credit as they should. And it's hopefully you guys can probably go out there and research these posters, and if you get a chance to buy a print, go ahead. I mean, it's great. It's a great way to honor these artists, and definitely you know, have a little bit of movie history in your house. So where can I catch everybody else here? Time to do your plugs. Go for it.
Yeah, you could just follow me on Instagram, ag.cinema, or Gilded Harbor, and you can go to the Gilded Harbor website. That's where we kind of keep everyone up to date on the projects we're working on.
Cool. And I know that you're working something with Edgar Allan Poe or something like that.
Yeah, it's a biopic feature film. I recently just did a road trip from here to Delaware, and I made a pit stop in Philadelphia to visit one of his houses. That's a museum.
Cool.
So it's so that's my second one. There's also another one in the Bronx in Fordham.
Right.
Wait, there's a place in
Yes, there's
Fordham?
always been.
It's
Really?
Poe Park.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's Poe
Yeah,
Park.
that park. It's
Yeah.
like, remember where Alexander's was? Where the recruiting station is.
Yes.
Okay. The park down the street.
Right. Oh, really?
That's where the
That's
Edgar
Poe
Allan Poe
Park.
thing is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Poe Park and his house is there. So you have that one. I just went to the one.
See,
in
I was actually
Philly.
reading those signs when I was walking through those places.
Well, dude, we were cutting class, and while you were reading signs, I'm looking out for
I was
cops.
still reading.
Well, I'm looking out.
He
I
wanted
was
extra
cutting
credit.
class, but I was learning.
Yeah,
He
but
got extra credit.
I cut class, but I was looking out for the cops. That being said, Adam, keep going.
Yeah, so just trying to, get some like history on him. I got to make one more pit stop in Baltimore, which is not, he doesn't have any actual houses there, but they do have the largest Poe museum and his actual gravesite that's there with the headstone. So I'll see when I make a trip there. But yeah, just trying to absorb as much as I can to get, the best movie possible. So yeah, coming soon.
On something like that, I mean, I'm sure he has descendants and things like that. Have you?
He does not.
No.
No, yeah, it's a very messed up, crazy story, and it's definitely interesting enough to make as a movie. And
Right.
I can see there's one specific reason why probably no one has made it, but I'm gonna, I won't spoil anything now. Yeah, you'll just have to watch it when it comes out.
All right.
He was an interesting character.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a movie with Edgar Allan Poe that it was done by John Cusack or something?
He played
Raven.
Edgar Allan Poe, and he did a good job of his portrayal, but the entire movie's made up.
It's not about him.
Like it's a
character.
fake story about
It's
them
like
solving a murder.
solving a murder,
Based
right?
off his,
Oh,
the murderer is influenced by his poetry, but this never happened. And you
Yeah.
get like little bits of information about his life, but it's nothing that tells you about who he was as a person. And I love his portrayal. I think he did a good job, but the movie, they were basically just banking on his name to sell tickets
Right.
to make the
Okay.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maya would not be that way. It would be a biopic, but told in an interesting way. So,
Okay. Very cool. Nice. Man, I look forward to that. And you, Mark, where can they find you?
Well, you could find me on Panels to Pixels podcast. You can find me on any podcast player of choice.
Awesome. And Frank?
Look, man, I don't do plugs.
Okay. Well, yeah, you could tell his hair.
There you go.
I
All
don't
right.
know.
He does no plugs. You can just find it. You can find him in Florida, not floating with the rest of the population over there after the hurricane.
My
So
God,
I
that
do.
was so insensitive.
I was just gonna say, I do actually wish the people that did get affected over there the best.
No, yeah.
And hopefully they're safe now and stuff like that, and hopefully they could recover. So that's our podcast. My name is Robert. I have been your host, and with me was Adam, Mark, and Frank, and hopefully we will catch you next time. Have a good night. Take care.